documents that would put lives at risk?
When they just survive.
Yo, welcome back. You might notice this week as I drop videos, the background changing, lighting changing, me wearing different things. I'm really playing around with the production elements of the whole operation here, trying to get things tightened up a little bit, trying to make the look a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper. So bear with me here while I get things sort of dialed in. But with that being said, let's jump on in.
These are some conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. So Bohemian Grove was an alleged meetup spot for the rich and powerful to rub shoulders and talk, which was later confirmed to be the site where Oppenheimer would work on the Manhattan Project alongside many of the world's most powerful men. The CIA admitted to the existence of a long-believed heart attack gun, which would pierce victims with shellfish toxin and kill them within minutes, making their deaths seem of natural causes. The CIA also controlled US citizens through the use of LSD for Project MKUltra, in which they controlled the minds of subjects to see what would happen. The tobacco industry was thought to have suppressed evidence of the harmful effects of smoking to further push their product, which was true, although this isn't a unique practice as it's done by the food industry with sugar and Big Pharma with the side effects of prescription drugs. Apple was long thought to have slowed down devices after the release of new devices, which we now know to be exactly true. And finally, rings hosted by the elites were a long-believed conspiracy until this turned out to be much worse than originally thought. Pretty bad, right?
Yeah, most of those I think people are somewhat aware of. Certainly MK Ultra is probably one of the more popular known conspiracies out there. That's kind of wild if you really stop and think about it. I mean, the fact that the CIA was doing those kinds of experiments and programs is pretty out there. I think the one where he talked about Big Pharma and whatnot, I don't know how much of that you can consider true. I certainly feel that there's a lot of compelling evidence for what he said to be true. But I guess you have to really kind of define what you mean by true and fact. And there's elements to that one that I think are still being debated. Unlike something like MK Ultra, where you can't really debate MK Ultra. It's factually proven, court documents, et cetera, et cetera. So that one's a little bit the Big Pharma one, them doing things to certain products to influence the general population. Well, I think there is compelling evidence out there. I don't know how much of it you can say is true. That being said, it just feels like as time goes on, more and more of these crazy ideas seem to get more and more accepted and certainly proven, and then not certainly, but become proven in some cases, but certainly more and more compelling evidence gets unearthed and makes these theories become closer and closer to fact.
The world's scariest conspiracy theories. Here we have conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest, and today we're going to be starting off with tier 1. And the first conspiracy theory is Michael Jackson may not be dead after all. And this theory starts out with Michael being at his own funeral in disguise, wearing prosthetics and makeup to cover up. Believe it or not, but Michael has done this before to disguise himself from the paparazzi. There was also no open casket at his funeral, which means nobody ever saw his corpse. Now in this video, you can see the ambulance that took Michael to the hospital, but when they got there, a figure that looked almost identical to him hopped out looking perfectly fine. Also, his daughter uploaded this photo in 2016, and in the back seat, you can see a figure that looks like Michael sitting there. Finally, Michael's middle name is spelled differently on his death certificate than it is on his ID and even passport.
Yeah, I saw a picture not too long ago too of like a older guy that looks like what Michael Jackson might look like if he was like old and didn't have his makeup done and all that stuff, and like on the bus in like Argentina or something like that. This one I think like the Tupac conspiracy, there's been a long time conspiracy about Tupac not being dead. This one feels more real to me than the Tupac one. If anyone could get away with it, it's Michael Jackson, because his face has changed so much over the years. He is well known for having worn like really high-end prosthetics and stuff like that to go out in public and not be seen. I don't know if people realize like how famous Michael Jackson was, especially like young people, even people my age, like by the time I was an adult or old enough to really take these kinds of things in and understand them, he was already sort of past his prime. So it's really the people who were, teenagers and above in the 80s who really probably understand best how famous Michael Jackson was. I don't think that'll ever happen again. I mean, not in our lifetimes, at least. And people talk about Taylor Swift and stuff like that. Not to take away from Taylor Swift. Obviously, tremendously successful. Whether you're a fan or not is irrelevant, right? Like, she is objectively one of the most successful artists working today. That being said, she doesn't hold a candle to Michael Jackson. I mean, the level of fame that he has is just next level. I don't think anyone's come close to being as famous as he was, still is. Frankly, his songs are still topping Spotify charts as of like a few weeks ago. So point being, he couldn't really go anywhere. You can't, when you're at that level of fame, you don't just go grocery shopping. You don't just go to the movies. You don't just go out and live your life, because you shut down like society when you move around. It's like he's well known for having done that, right? Like airports shut. If Michael Jackson is known to arrive at an airport, the airport could get shut down because people will just bombard the airport to try and get a glimpse of this guy. That's how famous he was. And that's happened back in his day. So he was well known for wearing prosthetics and masks and disguises and stuff like that so that he could go out in the world. I think there's some celebrity, it might be Chris Tucker, I can't remember, who tells a story about going to the movies with Michael Jackson. And some guy walks up and goes, "Hey, what's up, Chris?" And he says, "Who are you?" And it's me, Michael. Couldn't even recognize him. And that type of technology for sure exists. I think we talked about masks and the CIA and what they have. So Michael would definitely have access to those types of masks. So if anyone could do it and get away with it, definitely Michael Jackson.
Girl that was on the airplane, she's like, "That guy's not real."
Back there is not real.
There's a recent conspiracy that she's back on social media after she went missing.
Oh, and she looked different?
She looks like a whole new person.
Yeah.
I did not see anything.
She started posting and she's trying to do like the Hawk Tua girl.
You gotta give him that hawk to and spit all that night.
She's trying to become a social media personality from being the girl that saw something in the plane. What's crazy is one of the pictures or videos she posted, it started going viral in Reddit because they looked back on her last sightings and she was missing. They had no idea where she went, no idea if this is even her because she looks different. They took those images and they put it through a processor to see if it matches the face. It got a score that legit means.
Yeah, I don't know what score it got cut out there at the end, but I do like this one. That girl who said that stuff on the plane, it makes you wonder, man, what did she see that made her freak out like that? I wish I could talk to this person. And looking at those two women, the one who's now shown up and is on podcasts and, trying to become a social media personality, she does look slightly different. To me, is in the chin. The new girl has a little bit more of a defined, longer chin than the other one. That can easily be explained. She might have got some work done. She might have got some Botox done. She might have lost some weight. There's all different sorts of things that can be done that can affect the look of your face. So I'm not saying that it's definitive proof by any means, but she does look slightly different. She does look slightly different to me. And it's weird that she came out and like tried to dismiss the initial incident. Convenient, right? But this is more of a fun one. I think more than anything, the most interesting part of this conspiracy, to the extent that it's conspiracy, the most interesting part of this story is just what did she see? Like, I wish we could get an interview with this girl and like what really get 3 hours with her and just pick her brain about what went on that day on the airplane. That's the most interesting part of this whole thing.
The idea that The Simpsons can predict the future is one of the most popular conspiracy theories in the entire world. From future presidents to the God particle to virus outbreaks, they seem to have an episode for everything. Another one of the most famous conspiracy theories is that the moon landing was faked, even though we have photo evidence, witnesses, and moon rocks right here on Earth. 20 to 30% of Americans currently believe that Area 51 is housing aliens or alien technology. Another huge one is that airplanes are used to spray toxic chemicals into the atmosphere for the purpose of sterilization, reduction of life expectancy, mind control, or weather control, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the people spraying the chemicals would still have to breathe the chemicals just like the rest of us. The idea that the Earth is flat was debunked by the ancient Greeks 2,000 years ago, but still today, it remains one of the most popular conspiracy theories in the world. And finally, we have the 5G conspiracy, where people believe that the 5G electromagnetic frequencies from cell towers have the ability to undermine the immune system or control minds.
So I want to show this one because I think it's a good example of how legitimate discussion around conspiracies get delegitimized because of things like flat Earth, right? Like whatever you want to believe in flat Earth, fine. My opinion of it is like that meme. There was like some meme going around TikTok recently of like a guy trying to show his girlfriend a video about how the Earth is flat. And she turns around and yells at him like, who gives a shit if the Earth is flat? I'm still going to have to fucking pay bills. Like, you know, it's great. And it's like, yeah, like who cares? Who cares, man? Like, what, you know, like I get it. Understanding our world is interesting and I'm interested in that as well. But there are far more compelling conspiracies out there with significantly better evidence than flat Earth. And we've talked about flat Earth before. Like, if you're going to try and prove flat Earth, you have to prove a system, right? Like, there's an entire system at play when you talk about a globe. And flat Earth just doesn't have anything near that, right? So you might be able to poke holes in certain pieces of evidence or arguments for the globe theory. But just because you can do that doesn't prove the Earth is flat. That aside, well, no, not that aside. That whole aspect of like the conspiracy theory community, and those of us that enjoy talking about this kind of stuff, really delegitimizes the real conspiracies. Another example of this that I think is a better example, frankly, of what I'm talking about, is that plane idea, right? So, the plane, the chemtrails has been one that's been around for a long time. And it's easy to point to that and go, oh, see, people think that this is going on. That's crazy, right? That wouldn't make sense. However, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact that they do put things in our water, fluoride specifically. Now, you may argue that that's good for us, that there are legitimate reasons for doing that. There's also evidence and studies and research and data that's coming out that's showing that there are legitimate issues with doing that. Same thing with our food. The U.S. is a perfect example of them allowing companies to put certain things in our food that have significant health impacts. And if you don't believe that, all you have to do is look to Europe, right? And we're not talking about, some second or third world countries. We're talking about first world countries, same values, capitalist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very comparable to the U.S. That don't allow these types of things to be put in their food in those countries. So why do they allow it here? The reason is because we have a for-profit healthcare industry, right? So, one, the food companies can lower costs, therefore increasing profit. Two, they don't care if you become unhealthy because they're going to make money off of you through the healthcare industry as well, or through health insurance, right? So they're making money hand over fist through two different strategies here. And so that is the motive behind it, right? And for those, well, then for the argument that he said, well, then they would have to eat the food. No, they don't, right? Like a lot of people don't eat the crap that that has that kind of stuff in it. The CEO of Campbell's Soup recently was caught on a hot mic saying he would never eat their products. So, you know, the CEO of McDonald's is not eating McDonald's regularly. He's just not. I don't care how many commercials they put out with him having a Big Mac for lunch. He's taking a bite of the Big Mac and then throwing it away. Like, come on. So there are instances where these arguments are legitimate. There is significant evidence and research backing up the claims. Is it irrefutable? Is it pure fact? No, right? Like, we can always debate these things, but to just dismiss it in that way by sort of pointing to something like chemtrails or flat Earth, it delegitimizes those arguments which are legitimate. It's unfortunate.
Unsolved mysteries that will never be solved. So in 1977, astronomers picked up an unknown 72-second radio signal from space, and it was never repeated, leading scientists to believe that it could have been the one and only attempt by aliens to contact us. The dancing plague of 1518 involved a group of French people who would dance uncontrollably for days, sometimes to physical exhaustion with no clear medical explanation to this day. The Max Headroom incident in 1987 involved a mysterious masked man hijacking television stations and speaking nonsense into the camera with bizarre footage. A coded sculpture outside of the CIA headquarters called the Cryptos contains 4 encrypted passages, and nobody to this day has been able to solve the final one. The Tunguska event, which is the largest impact explosion event on Earth in recorded history, at 1,000 times bigger than the Hiroshima bomb, destroyed 80 million trees in Siberia in 1908, but scientists can't confirm whether it was a meteor or something totally different because there was no crater or meteor rocks anywhere. And finally, the Amelia Earhart disappearance remains a mystery to this day, as she flew around the Pacific in 1937, only to vanish without a trace of her plane or body ever to be found. So who knows what happened?
Yeah, I've heard of some of these. The dancing event, the thing outside the CIA, that's kind of explainable. I mean, I don't know that it'll never be solved. It hasn't been solved to this day, I believe. But that, I think, is pretty well known that it's there to sort of as a recruitment tool. So anyone who works on it in any sort of public capacity might be someone who's really good at cryptography and is someone the CIA or intelligence agencies might be interested in recruiting to work for them. There's other famous puzzles that have come out like that. Cicada 3301, I think is what it's called. That is widely believed to be that type of thing. But yeah, these are fun ones. The Tunguska event, I did not know that it was not definitively proven as an asteroid. That's pretty wild.
Said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Yeah, I don't think he killed himself. I don't care what these two guys say. And, I know they're political figures. They're tied to the Trump administration. They might be hot button issues for some people, but let's put politics aside and just use our brains for a second. I know that's difficult when we talk about certain political figures, but let's do our best here to think critically. It just doesn't add up. The evidence that's there really doesn't add up for a suicide. There's so many things that make it clear that some sort of funny business was going on. The cameras stop working. The guards are asleep. The suicide watch was ended 12 hours. Like I mean, just over and over. The autopsy was botched over and over and over again. I mean, at some point, anyone who's out there who's a parent, right? Like, just think about that. Even if you're a kid and you're not a parent, like just think about it for a second, right? Like, if you had a kid, you walk into their room and you smell pot, and they tell you, "Oh no, I wasn't smoking pot." Are you gonna believe them? Like, the evidence is there, right? You might be suspicious and might be like, "Hey, let me check your sock drawer," right? Like, I mean, nowadays that probably is not as big of a deal as it was when I was young, but that was the whole thing, right? Parents are always worried about your kids smoking pot. But anyways, point being, like, even with the just basic things that we all come across in some points in our lives, require you to go beyond this is the fact, right? Like, and just sort of think critically and go, what does the evidence suggest? And in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, certainly suggests foul play. And if you're not capable of making that critical assessment, I don't understand how you're not able to see that. Like, it's so obvious. It's so incredibly obvious. So incredibly obvious. And if you're not able to, at the bare minimum, see the evidence and go, yeah, it's a possibility, and you're just all the way taking the official narrative, then you have to be, in my opinion, you have to be driven by something else. You're driven by political bias. You're driven by whatever the case may be. But you're not really operating rationally. And there are a lot, if Trump and Epstein and all these things, it's too close to something for you, you can look at things that happened with the Clintons. There's plenty of instances with the Clintons where it's pretty clear foul play was involved to a certain degree. People get real weird when we talk about politics for some reason, because seems to be, at least in the United States, politics gets so wrapped up in our own personal identities, which is a real issue. George Carlin is famous for talking about a lot of this stuff, and his famous quote is what this channel is named after. And it's a real issue when your sense of self is wrapped up in your political ideology. Like, when ideology becomes identity, I think is more in line with what Carlin said. You start to have real issues, because when you hear criticisms of the ideas or of the ideology, you take it as a personal attack against your identity. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. So whether you're on the right or left, some people might react poorly to the Epstein stuff. Some people might react poorly to some of the things that went on during the Clinton era because of your political affiliation. If you can't look at these events where it's clear as day that at the bare minimum, we don't have all the answers. At the bare minimum, we don't have all the answers. And you're the type of person who's saying, no, the official narrative is 100% correct, and you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist, then you're not operating in reality. You're just not operating in reality, plain and simple. Now, I'm not saying we know everything that's happened. We know exactly what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. There's always room for debate in this. There's a lot of nuance, detail. These are complex arguments. Same thing with what went down, some of the stuff with the Clintons. But at a bare minimum, you have to be able to look at the evidence and go, yeah, there might be something else going on here. At a bare minimum, we don't have all the questions answered. And if you can't admit to that, you're not functioning in reality.
Conspiracy theories about the death of Charlie Kirk have been exploding online.
Israel will kill him.
The martyr, Charlie Kirk.
There have been more than 2 million distinct posts in the last week on X or Twitter referencing these conspiracy theories. That's according to the data analytics firm Peak Metrics, which said that it's actually twice as many posts as there were after the assassination attempt against Donald Trump last summer. Think about that. Some left-wing figures have been pushing the unhinged theory that Donald Trump himself orchestrated the killing to distract from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Other liberal activists have tried to connect the suspect to far-right white supremacist groups that had been clashing with Charlie Kirk, even though there is mounting evidence that the suspect was upset with Charlie Kirk's conservative ideology. And then on the right, some of Trump's allies like Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer have been pushing the idea that the suspect was part of a terror cell, even though the authorities have said that the suspect acted alone.
It seems like we're being spoon-fed a narrative.
Others on the right have been leaning hard into anti-Semitic tropes and are blaming Israel.
I heard that Charlie Kirk was afraid Israel was going to kill him.
Threats were made.
These theories are insane, but the disinformation expert I spoke to said they don't really need to make any sense because on the internet, the incentives are totally backwards. The podcasters, influencers, and grifters that have been promoting these conspiracy theories need to churn out take after take. The more inflammatory, the better, so that they can gain more followers, build subscribers, and keep the money flowing.
That is the wildest thing I think I've ever seen. I don't watch mainstream media anymore at all. So when I see it occasionally in social media, stuff like that pop up, it's like watching something from another planet. It's so goofy. So goofy. The complete and total lack of awareness is just what's so wild to me. I mean, especially what he went on there. The rant he went on there towards the end about needing to come up with take after take to keep the money flowing and all this stuff. CNN, $1 billion organization with multiple 24-hour news channels, is talking about needing to keep the money flowing. Ah, okay, buddy. Who pays your fucking salary? Like, just crazy to me. Crazy to me. Absolutely wild. Like I'm like just at a loss for words. Forget about what he said about Charlie. Like who? Let's put that aside. Who, not to say who even cares. There's a lot to be said about the Charlie Kirk stuff, but let's just put that aside for a second and just kind of look at this from a more meta perspective. Someone in the mainstream media, especially CNN, saying these things is so wild to me. The other thing that he just so casually dropped was the statement, the disinformation expert I spoke with. What is a disinformation expert? Who is this expert? What are their credentials? Like for the folks that are, bought into this kind of stuff, the science and believe the science and all, and I'm not saying don't believe the science, whatever, right? Like, I'm just saying, if you're really bought into this, whatever the hell this is, you tend to have a deeper respect for authority and people in positions of, power, et cetera, right? Academic institutions, bureaucratic agencies, whatever the case may be, right? So you tend to respect expert opinions if you're really bought into this media space. And it's so crazy to me that an audience who might be watching this would not pick up on that immediately, because that jumped out to me immediately. It was like, this is a clear... what's the fallacy? Appeal to authority, and done incredibly poorly. And I get it as short form content, whatever the case may be, but you could have spent that 30 seconds towards the end there where you were ranting about financial gain and grifters. You could have shortened that a little bit and taken another 5 to 10 seconds to talk about who this supposed disinformation expert is and their credentials, and yet you didn't do any of that. You just glossed over it. You didn't even say a name. We don't even know if this person exists. You just made a claim so casually like that. And I don't know anyone who could be watching this thinking to themselves that that is not peculiar in any sort of way. This is just so bizarre to me. It's so crazy. Like, you know, sometimes you go to visit family or whatever who might be older and they've got the news on or something. And I may watch it for 10, 15 minutes just out of genuine curiosity. And it's wild, man. I swear, it's like I feel like I'm an anthropologist or something, an ethnographer doing a study of like an alien species or something. Like, it's like, I don't know. When the boomers are gone, man, these guys are out of business. I just don't know anyone like below the age of 60 who takes this stuff seriously anymore because of goofy stuff like this. Like, it's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre and completely lacking in any self-awareness or transparency. I mean, just completely biased. It's wild. I know I'm kind of saying the same thing over and over here now, but it's so crazy to me to see takes like this from these people, of all things. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild.
Were dinosaurs real?
Dinosaurs? Yes.
Is the Earth flat?
No.
Did we land on the moon in 1969?
Whew, if you asked my brother, he'd say no, but I say yes.
Okay. Was there a second shooter at John F. Kennedy?
Yes.
Wow. I think everybody has said that. Is Alexa listening to my private conversation?
Yes.
Is Bigfoot real?
Yes.
Do you believe that there's an Illuminati or a secret group of 8 to 12 people that pull the strings in the world?
I believe that the first part of that is, but I believe it's a lot bigger than 8 and 10.
Wow. Are there aliens at Area 51?
Live or dead? I think there are pieces and specimens of things that we can't explain there.
This is great.
I was with her on every one there except the Bigfoot one. Bigfoot, I don't think there's any legitimate evidence for. You know, these are the popular ones. Dinosaurs is weird. I don't know that dinosaurs has ever been a part of the conspiracy conversation. It seems to be getting shoehorned in there again as a way to delegitimize people who talk about this kind of stuff. Oh, they don't believe dinosaurs is real. You can't trust anything those people say. I don't know where that came from. Dinosaurs has not been a part of the conspiracy discourse ever, really. And now I'm starting to see it more and more crop up very recently. So kind of weird that that's becoming a thing. I think she pretty much nailed it, except for the, like I said, the Bigfoot stuff. The Illuminati thing, like, is there a group? Do they call themselves the Illuminati? Right. So you got to interpret what she's really saying, right? This was a rapid fire round, right? She's not diving into anything and having the opportunity to really explain herself. So caveat. But, yeah, she made a decent point to say, like, hey, I think there are groups of people who are pulling the strings. I think it's not 8 to 10 people, 10 to 12 people, whatever it was. It's bigger than that. I think that's definitely the case. In fact, there's arguments that are, basically fact at this point that you cannot argue against. At least in America, we have lobbyist groups, and they are proven to spend significant amounts of money, conduct all kinds of research, leverage data and advanced technology to try and pursue certain policy that benefits them. That's not a conspiracy. That's a fact. And it's not a fact. It's a widely accepted strategy for many industries. I used to work in real estate investing, and I was at a small, mostly private equity firm where they raise money from private investors, then take on debt, buy large commercial real estate assets and manage them as an investment for a return. That industry is massive all over this country. I don't know much about other countries, but I imagine it exists in other countries as well. But certainly in the US, this is a massive industry where there's billions, probably trillions of dollars at play. The firm I was at had $6 billion assets under management, and they were a small company, privately owned, like 50 people in the office. And whenever there's something in real estate called the 1038 exchange, basically allows you to, when you sell a house, if you take the returns that you get from selling that house and roll it into a second property, you don't have to pay tax on the gains. Basically, you can avoid capital gains tax. And it's called the 1038 exchange. Very popular tool. I don't know if you necessarily call it a vehicle, but very popular tax strategy for anyone who's in the real estate game. And every, I don't know, 5-10 years or so, the government comes around and starts talking about, we may need to get rid of the 1030 exchange and start taxing these transactions, yada, yada, yada. And it to me, it feels like it's like the mafia coming around for their cut, The government's probably not going to do it. Those folks who are in the industry and been around long enough know that they're probably not going to do it. But what ends up happening is all of these private companies start spending tons of money on lobbyist groups, and a bunch of money starts flowing towards Washington to sway opinion. That goes towards political campaigns. It goes towards not just political campaigns, but consulting companies and law firms and all kinds of stuff, research companies to do studies and show why this would be bad for the everyday citizen and all of this stuff, right? So money gets thrown around in a lot of different ways, and a lot of people get paid. And all of this is done to sway policy in DC so that rich people investing in real estate can continue to not pay taxes on those transactions. That's not a theory. It's not a conspiracy. It's a fact. And it's a widely accepted method for doing business. And this is just one industry and one small little, policy that I happen to have personal experience with. But this kind of stuff happens all over the place, all over the economy and U.S. society. And like I said, probably all around the world. Less familiar with other countries, but this is a fact, not a theory. So, what does that mean? Can you take that pattern of behavior and expand it in any way? You mean to tell me that there aren't elements of our society who are doing that exact same thing at other levels in more covert means that you aren't aware of? What about AIPAC, right? So you might say, oh, well, lobbyists have to register, right? Like all these things are tracked and they're registered, and those who may be pursuing, policy that is against the interests of the United States, are well documented and tracked. AIPAC isn't. For anyone not aware, AIPAC is one of the Israel lobbies. They're not required to register as a foreign agent. And these are just those organizations that operate, that operate above board. So what about those that are operating in ways that are, less legitimate? You mean to tell me that the military-industrial complex there aren't elements of that industry that aren't doing things less legitimately? Wall Street never has backroom deals. The construction industry is well known in the East Coast, at least in New York, from my understanding, of, you got to pay off certain people. Otherwise, your crew won't show up. Right? You don't think these things are happening at various levels of society? and possibly at some of the highest levels. You don't think that families out there like the Rockefellers aren't spending large chunks of money to influence governments around the world in ways that they want to influence them to their own ends? You don't think that's going on? That's not possible. To me, that's a crazy idea. And so that's just talking about one of those instances there to demonstrate that there's a lot of nuance in these conversations that you have to really go into. You can't just take rapid fire things that this person is saying and go, they think Bigfoot's real. Like, maybe there's a legitimate argument there, because what she said about the Illuminati, there is a very legitimate argument for, right? Like, you just have to interpret what they're saying in good faith. And so by the small comment that she made of, I don't think it's 10 or 12, I think it's bigger than that, right? That suggests that she's thought about this critically and that there's more nuance to any claims that she might make. And so maybe there's something to her thinking around the Bigfoot stuff. The only argument that I could have for the Bigfoot stuff is that Bigfoot doesn't exist today, but something like a Bigfoot might have existed thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, as like a proto-human being. So maybe that's what she meant. Or maybe she does believe in Bigfoot's running around in Northern California right now. Who knows, right? But point being is, if you're going into this with preconceived notions to try and point out stuff like, they think dinosaurs are fake, then, I mean, what's the point of engaging with the content, right? You're just pursuing an agenda, which is really just not that interesting. What's far more interesting is engaging with the idea in a what's the word? Good faith sort of attempt to try and understand the idea. Now you can then, having gone through that process, get to the end of it and then dismiss it. That's perfectly fine. But, I see a lot of this stuff where folks, try and dismiss these conversations and these ideas and these concepts out of hand, out of some sort of sense of superiority or whatever. And it's so boring. It's so boring. Isn't life more interesting if you think a little bit more creatively, use your imagination a little bit? And if you start exploring some of these ideas, like I said, from a place of good faith, you'll find some of them are actually extremely compelling. Anyways, I can go on and on about this stuff. We've gotten on our soapbox a little bit today, but I do think it's a worthwhile conversation. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to end it there for today. We'll be back with another one tomorrow. Like I said, you might be seeing the backdrop changing a little bit this week. I might be wearing different hats and outfits and all kinds of stuff, trying to just make the production value look a little bit better. I've got a shiny face, unfortunately, that I'm trying to work with. So, greasy skin. Anyways, thanks, guys. Please like, subscribe down below if you guys are enjoying the content. Every little bit really, really helps. I can't stress that enough. So, anyone who's out there watching at this stage, like, subscribe, comment, share the video with anyone you think might find it interesting. Like I said, every little bit counts. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.